everyone, and welcome to Transformational Tuesdays. I'm Teresa Velardi, your host for this time of inspiration, education, motivation, and conversation focused, of course, on transformation. And I am really excited this week, first of all, to be coming back from Memphis and spending some quality time with my great friend and online business manager, Doreen Harper, who's joining us here today as well. We had a little bit of a weather challenge while I was there. 200,000 people in Memphis were without power for the last few days of my stay, but you know what? Everything happens for a reason. And, you know, because Doreen is such a techie and because I've become familiar with technology and whatnot, and I do a lot of my work on the computer and I do my editing work on the computer, we normally would have had our faces in the computer, but instead we got a chance to spend some good quality time and conversation and song and whatever else came up as we were sharing time together. So I'm really grateful for that experience. So for those of you who were here last week, I sent out an email to everyone. I'm so sorry that we weren't able to join you, but the Tech Time segment that Doreen would have done last week is going to take place next week. And we are going to be talking about managing your contacts. So as a reminder to any of you who have a question for Doreen, please go to transformationaltuesdays.com, click on the button that says Contact Teresa, and send us your questions so we can address them during our time together next week on Transformational Tuesdays. So today I want to introduce you to my guest, Debbie Pearson, and I know in one of these buttons I have your bio, Debbie. Hang on one second here, but I'm just going to say that Debbie is the author of Age Your Way, and we are going to talk about her book and her expertise as a healthcare professional and what she has learned in her experience of being a healthcare professional, and things that we can do in order to be able to do exactly what her book title says. Age Your Way. So I'm really excited for that. And I'm Debbie, excuse me 1 minute. I'm having a really difficult time locating your bio in all these what do you call it? I have, here we go. Okay, so this is Debbie's bio. Let me tell you a little bit about her so you'll know that she is absolutely an expert in what she does, and her book is going to bring you great information as we go through this conversation today. So in a world where only 1 person in 5 gets to do what they do best every day, Debbie Pearson counts her blessings. Being a nurse has been her life's work and the heartbeat for the last 40 years. Her ability to be a good listener, to be unflappable, as she says, and her deep caring for all others have merged into a series of events that would impact her community and beyond. Following a long career in hospital nursing, Debbie transitions to home health care and then to the world of case management. She launched Nurses Case Management, or NCM, in 2000, in large part to address the growing and unmet need of care and advocacy for those who need assistance as a result of aging, injury, or illness. Debbie's love for nursing has turned into a mission, and she has developed powerful tools that can help others, their families, and their loved ones. It is all an extension of Debbie's heartfelt belief that what lives on as our legacy is what's in the hearts and minds of the people who you leave behind. I so totally agree with that. Debbie is the author of 2 must-own books when caring for someone or planning for your own health crisis. Age Your Way is the first book. It was released in 2016 and is filled with stories, some inspiring and some cautionary, drawn from her many years in service to others in the healthcare field. The blueprint to Age Your Way was released in early 2017 and is the companion book to her original book, Age Your Way. Its structured format provides the pages for recording vital information and documenting wishes, whether you're looking ahead to your own future planning or scrambling to assist an elderly relative in crisis. Both books are available on Amazon. And as we heard earlier, Debbie is in Texas. She lives with her husband, Hank, and they have 3 children and 8 grandchildren. God bless you. And you can visit, for more information, you can visit Debbie's website, ageyourway.com. So welcome again, Debbie Pearson. So excited to have you here.
Well, thank you for letting me talk to you and whoever is in your audience today. I'm excited.
Yeah, we have a whole bunch of people who consistently and religiously, if you will, come to Transformational Tuesdays. So, and there's a lot of people who will listen to this recording on the back end because they're all available on transformationaltuesdays.com. So, Debbie, I have to tell you, as a woman who has experienced some healthcare issues with my own parent, I want to first say thank you for putting together this information. I read parts of your book, and you've got some incredible ways that people can learn from you and your expertise on how to not only care for their aging or ill-ridden loved ones, but can really prepare for our future. And you know, today is everything is so uncertain. Why not have a bit of certainty? So let's give an overview on what your books are about so that we can hear it from you instead of from me, exactly how to use the information you provide.
Okay. Well, the books are what you talked about already. They're about planning. Mm-hmm. And it comes from watching 40 years ago in healthcare, people didn't plan. They didn't even have a voice in what happened to them. They didn't need to because their doctor took care of it. Mm-hmm. And their doctor was their family doctor, and they'd go in the hospital, and the doctor would have all the information and knew the family and could make the decisions. But it's very different today. Physicians are not wanting to make decisions for multiple reasons. Most of them are hospitalists, and when you go into the hospital or have something critical happen, the doctor knows you as a total stranger. So they certainly can't make decisions, and it impacts their liability, so they won't make decisions. And it's a difficult situation because if there's no planning and no forethought, then what happens is crisis management. And those are very poor decisions, either for yourself, if you're so ill that you can't speak what you want, or for family members who don't even know what their loved one wants. So this is all about planning ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and you're so right. Years ago, you said the physicians really previously made all the decisions, and now, for many reasons, we are responsible either for ourselves or for our loved ones by virtue of their permission to be able to have a more active role in healthcare. And I'm curious, I think everybody should read these books. Having been in this circumstance myself, I think if I had some of the information that you have given here, and some planning that is outlined in your books, probably would have been a lot easier, not only for me, but for my siblings to be able to be a part of my mom's care and so forth. But so in general, who do you think is your audience for your book? Who should be reading your books, and why?
Probably anyone that is at risk to age.
Great answer. That is the best answer. Absolutely. Anyone who is at risk to age. I love that.
Yes, and it's true, and it's a sobering moment because we don't think about it. We don't want to plan for aging. We want to plan for our next vacation or our next baby. And we don't want to plan for aging partly because it's kind of frightening, mm-hmm. but also partly because people haven't been doing it. So it's brand new. This is cutting edge. So anyone who is at risk to age or anyone who has aging family members.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, in today's day and age, where there are certain things that have to be put in place in order to be able to even get medical records and whatnot, can you give us a little bit of information on, or maybe some tips for people who might be in this circumstance and situation at the moment, that would offer someone the first step in the direction of planning?
To me, the very first step is legal documents.
Okay.
And they vary state by state. So my recommendation is to go to an attorney and get all of your documents done so that they're done correctly. But I recently had an experience a couple months ago with a grandson of mine at 19 years old who was in a bad accident.
Oh my.
He was in the emergency room, very impaired, very injured. The entire trauma team was trying to stabilize him. And as his mother walked through the doors, she walked through the doors with tears and fears. She did not walk through the door with a HIPAA release and a medical power of attorney. So they would not speak with her. This was a dependent child in college, but he was an adult. So they would give her no information whatsoever.
Wow.
So it's anyone who is an adult, even if they get simple forms. And recently, Doreen put my forms on my website, simple forms for any adult. So anyone 18 years old or older can download those forms and at least do the HIPAA release and the medical power of attorney and the directive to physician. Because with those documents, someone else can step in. That's the foundational piece, is legal documents. There's kind of 4 pieces, but that's the first piece to get done.
So a HIPAA release, medical power of attorney, and a directive to a physician, and they are available on your website.
Yes, and there's also a durable power of attorney, which that would allow, get my light back on, that would allow people to, withdraw you from college or pay your rent or stop your rent or whatever. That's the business piece of them. So all 4 of them are on the website now.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. This is really important information, because I don't think, as mother of a child, I never thought about having these documents in place in case of an emergent situation, such as an accident that you have described. So this is like light bulb moment, for many of us who have children who think that really the conversation that we're having is not just for the child to be preparing for the parent, but actually for the parent in preparation for the children that we have brought into this world. I just had a really light bulb moment here, Deb. I don't think that I would have thought of that, a power of attorney or any of these things.
Teresa, I'm in the planning business, and it hadn't crossed my mind.
Wow.
Anything at 18 years old, all information is ceased.
Wow. And is that through countrywide, or is the age of 18 universal throughout every state in the country?
To my knowledge, it is. 18 years old, you're an adult.
Wow.
Depends on the facility, but even with spouses, if my husband is in the hospital, they won't speak with me, even though I'm his wife.
Wow. Wow.
We're so protected in our society that no one will speak to us without the proper documents signed. So it's just a basic, that's the first of the 4 parts, is to get your legal documents done.
Good. I'm going to unmute Doreen. She's raising her hand here.
So, I guess this goes back to what you were saying, Debbie, because, recently I had health issues and everything else. And the first thing that they have you sign is the release, who can get your information. But I was in a position where I could say my husband could get the information. So it's critical to realize that not everybody is in that position to say who can get that information and who's not. And when preparing, And I think what I've had the pleasure of reading both of the books and knowing what's in them is that we as a society don't want to prepare for the worst, but we have to prepare for the worst because we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring anyway. So, and I think that is, when we're looking at the different stuff that we can, purchase or read or do anything else like that, we tend to try to stay on the light side or try to stay on a side that is very positive, and we don't want to look at something that inevitably may or may not happen. But being prepared is most certainly the best thing to do. And just to go back onto the resources that Debbie was talking about, it is on her latest blog post that you can find on her website. She's got all 4 of those forms.
Awesome. Thank you, Doreen. And yeah, you're absolutely right. We can pray or hope for the best, but we need to really prepare for the worst. And like you said, there are times when we may have a planned surgical procedure and we're asked to fill out these forms when we get there. But if we're in a case of an accidental or an emergent situation, those forms are not signable by us at many times. So this thing of planning, when do you suggest that people plan?
Today. Really today, for every single one of us. And it has to do with not knowing what's in your future. So today is the best day to start.
Yeah.
And either for yourself or for your parents, that's a huge issue with longevity and people living so long. And most of the time, I don't know about with your mother, but most of the time when that happens, it's when the children are probably at their most active stage of life with work and their own children and their own demands, and they cannot put their life on hold for their parents.
Mm-hmm.
Even with parents who are in good health, it's a nice trick to be able to take a guidebook in and start planning with your parents, because they'll tell you all kinds of things that you may not have had the nerve to ask them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're following a blueprint and filling out forms, then so much gets revealed that wouldn't ordinarily be revealed. And then you will have a plan for your parents before that happens.
Yeah. Can you talk about some of the things that are in your blueprint? So it'll jog some curiosity for our listeners to invest in that book, both of the books, Age Your Way and the Blueprint. So can you go through a few things that we might not think of that are part of the blueprint, and so that we can continue in that area?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There are really 4 sections. One is the legal section, and it covers which documents and where they're actually located. The second is medical. And with medical, I'm a nurse, so I know most of the options that are available, but most people don't know those options. So the medical goes through an actual medical planning worksheet that you check off under one circumstance what you would and wouldn't want, and under a different circumstance what you would and wouldn't want. Because legal documents typically say if I have an incurable or irreversible condition, I either want everything done or comfort care. And, that's fine if those were your only 2 options, but healthcare has evolved to the point that we can keep people alive for years and decades based on additional supports. So the medical planning gives you that option of what you want and don't want. And then financial really covers everything that you have as resources, whether it's your health insurance or your Medicare or your income or your assets. What are your resources to help take care of yourself, and to include that in your plan, and what bank accounts need to be left open, because if someone steps in to manage your finances and they close an account that is receiving benefits, whether it's Social Security or Medicare or pension or your medical coverage, once that account is closed, there is an automatic assumption of death.
Yes.
All benefits stop. You get no more Social Security. Your Medicare goes defunct. Nothing works. And nobody knows that. But that's one of the things that you can spend the next year paying privately for all your care as you try and prove to Medicare that your mama is still alive. So financial is very important. And then personal is kind of a catch of everything else, things like logins and passwords. Without that, there are so many things that you're incapable of doing. It just ties your hands. But personal also has things like, what are those things that soothe you? What are the things that frighten you? How can someone make you comfortable? And these are things we do in our whole life, and we do them ourselves independently. But when roles reverse at the end, how nice is it for you to have a guide of what your mom really would have liked to soothe her?
Yeah.
So it's just giving people the tools that they need to protect you and care for you in a way that makes sense, where you guide them in how to help you.
Yeah, and this makes so much sense to me. So the legal documentation, the medical planning worksheet. Now, how important is it for whoever is your healthcare proxy or the person who has power of attorney to know your medical history as you enter into a stage of life where you may not be able to speak for yourself on this, and will the documentation be it in whatever is required in your state, will it give you the opportunity to get all the information that you need?
It's very important to go in well stocked with information, with all the tools. What are your allergies? What are your medicines? Who are your doctors? And that's also in the blueprint, where you can gather everything as far as your medical history and what surgeries you've had, and all of the details of your medical history can be gathered in the blueprint as well. And then you become an informed consumer and a good advocate. When you speak to a doctor and you know the medications and the allergies and the other treating physician team and all, there is a different response to you than if you go in with no information.
Right. And then the financials, what you said is really important about bank accounts. And know that when someone, in most cases, I'm not going to say always, but in most cases, power of attorney ceases upon the death of the person who you have the power of attorney for. So you need to make sure that if there is a safety deposit box, this is just from my own experience, that you have all this information and are able to take care of, and that you're a signer on the safety deposit box, or whatever needs to be done financially. And how I used to be an insurance agent for many years. So part of my conversation with people when we were talking about future, besides health insurance, disability insurance, there was also, when I left that industry, long-term care insurance was coming into play. And the other thing, of course, is life insurance. How much do people actually especially now with like the abundance of cases of Alzheimer's and related diseases like that, how important is it for people to explore things like long-term care insurance and whatnot? In your experience, have you seen a lot more of that happening than you did in previous years?
Long-term care insurance is probably the best money you will ever spend.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with it is it was a kind of a cash cow for a number of years, because people bought the policies and no one knew how they worked. And so the insurance industry was making a killing on long-term care insurance. till people started aging out and collecting, and now it is extremely difficult to get. And the long-term care insurance industry puts up many barriers when you try and make a claim now, where it used to be extremely simple.
Yes.
So anyone who can get long-term care insurance, I highly recommend they get it and get it as quickly as possible, because the amount you put into it is a fraction of what you get out of it.
Absolutely.
Really, and also just having the financial information allows your loved ones to know how much you have to take care of you, and if it is inadequate, when do they start looking to access government benefits. And they cannot access Medicaid or Medi-Cal or any of those if they don't have the financial information. So it is critical, and that's the last piece for people to disclose is finances. They're very abundant. People don't want to share that, or if they're minuscule, or if they're in complete chaos, which so many elderly people, their finances, they may be good or bad, but they've lost grasp of them and they are in chaos. So it is critical to know the safety deposit boxes and the accounts and everything else that people have, so you can step in and help.
Yeah, and I would imagine that having someone who is in tune with everything that you have really takes away from the stress of the patient, if you will, the person who is who's undergoing whatever it is that leaves them in a place where they can no longer make a decision for themselves or whatever. I know my mom was really confident that everything would be taken care of because she had assigned that to me. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to have issues with our siblings. Ask me how I know that. But it actually left her, as things were happening and she was losing control of herself physically, and she never really lost control of herself mentally to the degree where she actually needed someone to step in and manage things. I mean, my sister and I, just for the sake of her making it easy for her to not have to worry about finances, we paid her bills for her. We made arrangements to have our names on the checking account and whatnot. But a lot of people don't do that. Like you said, for whatever reason, people want to keep their finances to themselves, and it's really important that we learn about everything that is there, including things like what they have in insurance. And that, now with life insurance, I don't know that if you know this, but and this is again something before I got out of the industry. I was in the industry for 20 years, and now there are ways to, in cases of, and don't quote me on this, but explore it with your agencies. And Debbie, maybe you've seen that. This is why I'm bringing it up. In cases of incurable illness, there is sometimes a way for you to be able to get the benefits of the life insurance while you are still alive to a certain degree. Is that true? Have you experienced that with any of your patients in the past?
Yes, we've tapped into life insurance benefits to pay for what was needed during the living years. And there are things like reverse mortgages, and there are a whole host of things that can be explored, but they're useless without the information.
Right. And Lynn has a good question here. She's heard that senior foster care government facilities get nearly $7,000 a month per person. Why can't the community teach home health care skills to one of their kids or local caring community members who need income to be paid to them instead in order to be able to help the person who is at risk at the moment?
And you're talking about Medicaid services. And in some states, yes, the family member can be paid to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about someone needing 24-hour care, if they need someone awake and alert and available 24 hours a day, it takes that $7,000 and either doubles or triples it.
Wow.
Yeah, because it can cost at least twice that much to have 24-hour care. But if you can live with a family member and they can be paid for only part of the hours, then it can be doable. But it varies state by state.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. This is a very sobering conversation. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Doreen, were you raising your hand, Doreen?
Yes, I know. And I'm going to give you, for instance, on that, Lynn. My middle nephew has Alzheimer's, and my sister was a nurse. And the state of Kentucky actually paid her to take care of her own child. So you would really want to look at your state to find out whether they have that income bracket, whether that's something that you can do in the state to get paid. I mean, she's since moved from Kentucky to Boston because he's much older, and now he needs that true school to be able to get a little bit of independence. But when he was younger, she actually did all of his health care, and the state paid her to do it so that the state didn't have to come in and pay, because it was less expensive to pay her than it would be to pay somewhere else.
So he has autism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Autism, yeah. Okay, yeah, and that's
my stepsister Michelle's son, not Noreen's sons, because you're looking at me.
I know. So, but I heard you say Alzheimer's. That's why I want to make sure.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no,
yeah, it's okay. Because this is you bring up a great point, Doreen, because there is a lot of autism that requires massive care by the family members. And, this is a way this is also something to plan. So Debbie, your statement of when should someone plan, and you saying today is, now is.
And I'll tell you why, because each of us has 3 available stages to plan.
Okay.
You and I can do our planning today as stage 1, where the plan is completely us, and we put it together. We fill out all the forms, gather all of our information, and it's our plan. If we wait till stage 2, which is most people, that's when they're starting to decline, and then they can still direct a plan. They can tell someone where their documents are and where their safety deposit box is and where their bank accounts are. But they can't pull the plan together. They can direct someone else, and they certainly know who they are and what they want. So during stage 2, you have to have a helper to do it, but it's still a good plan. Or you can wait till stage 3, which is where you let someone walk in and do the best they can to manage your crisis. So that's up to each individual what stage they want to plan at. And a lot of people don't even know it's an option. So they wind up at stage 2 or 3 because they didn't realize it was an option.
Right. Yeah. So let me just reiterate that. Stage 1, you completely plan everything yourself as an individual. Stage 2, you're in a state of decline and need to involve another to create a plan for you. Need a helper. Or stage 3, let someone else do the best they can and plan for what is left of your future. So sobering is the only thing that is the word that comes to my mind as I'm listening to this. Gratefully, I was able to be in stage 2 with my mom. I would say stage 2 only because I don't know what she had. She did have some things planned on her own, but I had to step in. She was declining with cancer, lung cancer. And so that's where I had to step in and help her do the planning. But I can't believe we're at the half-hour mark already, a little past it. So I want to invite anyone who's listening to raise your hand if you're on the phone by pressing *9. If you have a question for Debbie Pearson, author of Age Your Way, I would love to hear from you. If you're on the video, you can either physically raise your hand or use the menu on the bottom of your screen in order to do so, and I will recognize you and get your question answered. And I have someone in 917 area code who I'm going to unmute right now. Hi.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi, who's this?
Hello. This is Ramona.
Hi, Ramona. How are you?
Hi, I just wanted to say, in New York, you are allowed to get to be paid for a caregiver family members. They show the ads all the time in New York. So New York State is one of the states that does allow that.
That's awesome. That's awesome to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the caregiver is actually able to be paid for their services to a family member. That's awesome. Thanks, Ramona.
You're welcome.
Anything else, dear?
No, it's just good to hear your voice.
Oh, good to hear you too.
It's a great and timely topic. Unfortunately for me, my parents died, but more or less everything was somewhat in place.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But it does make a difference because I've seen what happens when it's not.
Right. So we're going to plan for our own stuff starting now, right, Ramona?
You got it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for being part of the call today.
Thank you.
Okay. Doreen, again, I'm going to open your line. Oops, you opened it. Go ahead.
Well, this is a very, and you said it a couple times, Teresa, sobering conversation to have. So, Debbie, how do you recommend that the conversation begins? I mean, we don't want to have the conversation because of how intense that it is, but we know that the conversation has to happen. So, and I know that you've had this conversation with your own family in preparation for the book. So give us some ideas on how we can start the conversation without offending or by ensuring that the people who we are starting the conversation with don't think that we're trying to just be nosy. I want all your information now.
Great question, Doreen. Great question.
Yeah, and that is a real challenge. And in my experience, the best way to do that is to start doing your own plan. And while you're doing your own plan, you talk to your family members about it. You open up the book, you show it to them. The first book, it's just Age Your Way, it's nothing but stories. That's probably the best way to convince someone because it was being written as a motivational book. It's a small book, it's an easy read. So to give that to a family member and show them the blueprint that you're starting on, you just kind of start buying that little piece of their mind that says this is a proactive thing. And when they read the stories of people who planned versus people who didn't plan, and they know that you are starting to gather all of yours and document your wishes, then it becomes less ominous and you're not asking them to do something that you're not doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. Absolutely. Because and then how do you start the conversation with your children? Same way. Yes?
Depends on the age of your children. How old are your children, Teresa?
I have one son. He's 30 years old. But he's on the road a lot. And that's why when you said about your nephew, my son's a DJ. He drives to a location. He's a mobile, he's got to be mobile. So every time you get on the road today, whether it be of your own driving skills, whether you are one who utilizes this while you're on the road, or whether you're affected by someone else's irresponsibility, being on the road is taking your life in your hands today. So, when you said that about your grandson, I'm like, I really need to have this conversation with my son. He's like, oh, Mom, I get this stuff. Oh, Mom.
Oh, yeah, because after it happened with my grandson, we have 4 grown, past the age of 18 grandchildren, and 2 boyfriends that are associated with the granddaughters. And so I got 6 sets of documents together, put them in a folder, and gave them to the children. Do you think we've seen any of them back yet?
I don't think so.
You know what we're doing? We're doing a reverse gift for Father's Day for Hank, for my husband. if the children will bring their documents in, signed and notarized, we're handing out money.
Yay! I love that idea. I love that idea.
We're doing dollars for documents.
Dollars for documents. I love it.
We're serious, but it's a hard thing to get people to do because they're all bulletproof, and nothing will ever happen to your son because he's bulletproof.
Of course.
If you really care about a younger one, I think it has to be dollars for documents, sadly.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. Here's a good question. Lynn says, I heard that seniors can only get Medicare for 100 days for a specific illness, for example, stroke or accident, and then the family must pay. What do you know about that? Is that true?
Yeah, it is true. Medicare is a medical insurance, and this is covered in the book also because there's a lot of confusion. But Medicare is a medical insurance the same way your traditional employer insurance. They will pay for medical care. And once the individual is no longer needing medical care, where they have stabilized and they are, one of two things has to be happening. Either they are continuing to participate in therapy or they are continuing to make progress, then they can have medical care. Once they are no longer making progress or they can't participate, then it goes to custodial care and everything is private pay. And the other little bad piece of news on that, which is good to know information, but you don't always agree with it, Medicare is starting to do what they call bundling, where they will bundle your hospital stay with your nursing home stay or your rehab stay, and they are incentivizing the hospital to make your rehab stay shorter. If your rehab stay goes beyond 10 days, then the hospital gets financially dinged for that. So things are going in a very frightening direction in our country.
Yeah, it's all about the greenbacks.
It is, but you know, when you've paid into it your whole life, it's disappointing, to say the least.
Yeah. And the other thing people need to know is that Social Security, when you're planning for final expenses and whatnot, Social Security, the most that they pay out for final expenses is, hold on to your hats, girls, $255. So if you're counting on some magic to happen that the Social Security Administration is going to take care of final expenses for your loved ones, think again. It's really quite, again, I'm going to say it's sobering to learn what does and does not work as far as the government subsidized programs that seniors are entitled to, and there's really not as much as they think there are. So really do your due diligence and get Debbie's book. Debbie, as we're talking about this, please tell people how they can get your book. What's the easiest way for them to get a copy, not only of Age Your Way, but the blueprint as well? Where can they go and get it?
They can either go to my website at ageyourway.com or go to Amazon. It's
right. Yeah, and the blueprint, I know that Age Your Way is available on both Kindle and as a print book. I have it on my Kindle, but I would believe that the blueprint you should get as an actual book, because you can actually write in it. Yes.
Yes. Right now it's a physical book. We are, in our future plans, we are looking at making it into an application where people can go in, enter the information, and edit the information as things are adjusted.
Yeah. How can Medicare take over my Social Security for my medical insurance? How can Medicare take over half my Social Security from my medical insurance? So, Linda, I'm hearing you say that that the cost of medical insurance is literally half of what your Social Security check is. Is that true? Is that what you're saying? You want to open your line? Hang on a second here. I want to get clear on the question before I ask Debbie to answer it. So let me open your line for you. Go ahead, Lynn.
Oh gosh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. It's a long story. I've spent a lot of my life doing lots of care for donations are free, so to speak. Anyway, and it used to be, especially my military background family, taking care of them in a time when there was no pay for taking care of your family. So it's just really, there's a lot of horrible things in that situation. But anyway, so I was put on Medicaid in Obamacare, is here in Oregon. Now I'm turning 65, and my Social Security is only like $300 a month. They want to take 100 and what is it, 97 for Medicare. So I'm supposed to start paying $197 a month for Medicare.
So
your Medicare A, your hospital part is at no cost to you. But that doesn't take care of doctors. It doesn't take care of prescriptions. So those are optional things. You can opt out and say, I only want the hospital, the Medicare A part, and then they won't take anything out of your Social Security.
Okay, Medicare. What is that? Say
Medicare A.
Medicare A is the free Medicare, but that'll pay for your hospital. If you go into the hospital, you'll have a deductible, but it'll pay for your hospital stay. But most of us, we're going to see doctors as an outpatient. We're going to go to the lab to have blood drawn or get an x-ray. None of that is covered unless you pay for your Medicare B. That's the outpatient and doctor piece. And the cost of that is on a sliding scale based on your income. So if you're low income, you pay very little, and then as your income goes up, you pay more. And the other piece that's added on that is the Medicare D, the Medicare drug plan. So if you want your prescriptions, you want to just pay out of pocket, you won't have a cost. But if you want some coverage for the cost of your prescriptions, then you have to pay for the Medicare drug plan as well. So it adds up.
Yeah. And then there are all sorts of other things like supplemental that covers the part that Medicare doesn't cover, even with whether you're talking about hospital or doctor visits and outpatient and whatnot too. So there's healthcare is costly. Whether we're talking about Medicare or whether we're talking about individual insurance or group insurance through an employer, healthcare in this country is ridiculously expensive.
And Lynn, you could also look and see in your state what options they have for Medicare Advantage plans, where it may cost you less. You pay a monthly amount and it covers your Medicare completely. It's like going into an HMO where it'll cover your Medicare A and your B and your drugs, but you have to stay within a closed network of providers. But a lot of people have found that to be a good, credible option for them.
Right. Or let's see if you're qualified for the Medicaid program, which is also a government supplemented medical insurance as well, especially for people who are receiving low income. And you know, that's something to consider as well. Did your question get answered? I muted you, Lynn, just so that I could hear everybody individually. I'm going to unmute you again. Tell me if your question was answered or if you have anything else you want to ask.
No, I still am in question because I don't understand how Medicare can just step in and take over Social Security. take your money out of Social Security, when I'm already working with over 100 in Congress who already signed Senator Conyers' bill for HR 676 for single payer. I was a registered nurse in 2 countries, and I do not agree that we cannot start paying for community services with single payer instead of armed force services with single payer. We're in 156 countries. We have over 800 bases, and they all have single payer. And if we could just stop the nukes, stop the friggin' war, and we can all shift everything. Sorry, I just can't stand this.
I understand.
I want health care for everybody. So,
I understand. Yes. And
HR 676, get your people to sign it.
yeah.
Let's go.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Can you tell she's passionate about this? Yeah, and it's interesting because as an American, we see like other countries that have socialized medicine. I actually know somebody who was on vacation in a European country, had a massive heart attack while they were there, got immediately taken for healthcare, of course. They survived the heart attack, had surgery, spent the rest of their vacation in the hospital, walked out of the hospital not having to pay a dime, not a dime, because they were in a country where healthcare is provided for all at the time of the incident. And I understand the frustration, and I just understand it. But this situation is what it is. And Debbie, you're doing the best you can in order to be able to help us to plan our future so that we're not having to deal with that on top of the reality of our own circumstances. So getting started is really basically go to your website, download those forms, give them to everyone you love, have them fill them out, pay dollars for documents to the kids and the grandkids so that you have them. And so what else would you like to tell us about this topic and your book? Is there anything that you want to direct us to in the book specifically, or what else would you like to add to the conversation here?
Well, I do blog, and so if you go to the website and sign up, a newsletter goes out every week, and there are all the past blogs on there. And the reason they're so helpful is because everything that's in both books didn't come out of my brain. It's my patients and family members that taught me everything. And it's 40 years of lessons. And so there's no reason for someone to have to tread down a path full of landmines if someone can go ahead of them and remove those landmines. So let me help you any way I can. There's an email on there. I respond to every email that comes in. So any questions or concerns, I would love to be able to respond to that and help in any way I can.
Awesome. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for Debbie before we only have about 5 minutes left, but I just want to be able to make sure that anyone else who has a question, and Lynn put the information in the chat box. Actually, she has another question. Does being a member of AARP help with Medicare costs?
No.
No. Does it, although AARP does have, I can tell you this, they do have supplemental programs that are discounted for AARP members. They do. But it's a Medicare supplement. It's not Medicare itself.
But if Lynn, if you have any military background, I mean, VA retiree benefits are awesome. So I don't know if that's an option for you to help offload some of the costs. They certainly are very helpful with medications, and it's a great supplement.
And Lynn has here, there's an organization, a website with healthoverprofit.org. The information is in the chat box for anyone who's interested in seeing that information. And Karen earlier, Karen said something Karen Mayfield, I know you're still here. Secure transition. And really, isn't that what we're looking to do for our loved ones who are nearing the end of their time here, is to create a sense of security for them, that even when they're not here, even while they're here, things are taken care of, and then when their time is up, everything will be okay here, and they can easily transition from this world to the next. Yes?
That would be ideal.
Ideal, absolutely. And even when it's not involving a life or death situation, it's absolutely imperative, I believe, to have this, all of this taken care of, so that if and when you're in a situation where, even if it's for a minute, you can't speak for yourself, you have spoken for yourself by making sure your documents are in order and that they're given to someone to have on file. Let's talk about that for 1 second, because that question just came up in my mind. What happens, let's say I have all my documents filled out and everything. I've got my healthcare proxy, I've got my power of attorney, I have everything that you talked about earlier, all in order. Yet I'm in a situation where I have, God forbid, there's an accident, and now I'm in the hospital. The hospital doesn't know I have all this stuff filled out. What is our job in terms of getting this information to the necessary people in order to be able to have your wishes honored?
That's a great question, because, and I am grateful that you asked it, because once you've done your documents, they have to be distributed to everyone who is named. And that doesn't typically happen. Most times they're done in lawyers' offices or in your own home, and you put them away. But they don't do any good unless you've distributed them to the people that are in your family or that are the responsible parties. Any emergency room will take care of life and death situations with no authorization. That's what they do. But once the person is stabilized, they have to look to someone else to give authority if the patient is unresponsive. So distribute documents around.
Right, to our loved ones and whoever. And we need to make sure that we have on our person, we need to make sure we have emergency numbers, who to call in the event of an emergency. And I think a lot of that has gone by the wayside, because we keep our contacts in this little magic tool that we have here, our phones.
What you need to put in there, and I don't know if you've all heard of this, is you need to put ICE in there, ICE. That's for in case of emergency, and any emergency worker will go to your phone and look up ICE.
Ah.
That's where you list your in case of emergency person.
Awesome. I'm glad that we had that before we closed, in case of emergency, because I don't have that in my phone. Anybody else have that in their phone? No? See, everybody's shaking their head no. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really...
Thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you more than you know. What is this? People's Budget, Google and share. What is People's? Okay. It's something else that Lynn put in here is People's Budget. Google it and share it. So I just want to say once again, thank you, Debbie. This is a conversation, especially like the population that comes to Transformational Tuesdays is mostly women, and most of us we either have children or we have aging parents, and we ourselves may be facing some health challenges. And this information is relative to anyone. So I strongly suggest that you get a copy of Debbie's book, Age Your Way, and the blueprint as well. Go to Amazon.com or to ageyourway.com to get those documents that Debbie was talking about, in addition to getting a copy of the book, and get on her list for the newsletter that she sends out. Lots of information, I'm sure, is contained in the blog, so I'm going to be absolutely going there and getting signed up for your weekly newsletters. with 40 years of experience behind you, you have an incredible amount to offer with, with your own experience and through the experience of those you have cared for. So I really want to say a heartfelt thank you for taking the time to put together the information that you have in your book so that we can access it and have an easier time with our loved ones when the time comes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
All right.
You're so welcome. And I just want to remind everyone that we will be back next week with Doreen Harper for Tech Time. We're going to be talking about managing our contacts. And also for those of you who are interested, Doreen and I finally got the Daily Gift book series. Our first book is going to be A Daily Gift of Gratitude, dailygiftbookseries.com. Go there and find out all the information. Once again, I want to thank my guest, Debbie Pearson with Age Your Way, for joining me today, and for each and every one of you who have come to Transformational Tuesdays. Whether you're listening to us live or on the replay, enjoy traveling until next time, what I call the transformational trails of life. See you next time, everybody.